right. So according to YouTube, I'm live. So I'm gonna go ahead and get in here and talk about this new development in the forever ongoing saga between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford as it pertains to negotiation for a fight that a lot of boxing fans been wanting to see for quite a while. Um, Not really the best time to go live, but hey, I had an opportunity, took it. Hopefully, some of y'all start to funnel on in here. If not, you catch the replay. Please hit the thumbs up, drop a comment, let me know, what you think about the live stream. So, basically, reports came out that with Terence Crawford trying to, get a fight, wanting to make the Errol Spence Jr. fight by the end of the year, basically having a fight in 2022. We know he hadn't fought since he fought Sean Porter way back in November of 2021. So with basically news coming out that the fight was going to be made in February March time frame of 2023, Crawford took the opportunity to take another offer that was made to him to go fight on an upstart app or network or whatever it is. I think it's a streaming app called Black Prime or BLK Prime. I don't know if it stands for Black or Block. But the fight's going to be $39.95 on pay-per-view. Fight's going to be in Omaha at Shy Health Center on December 10th. And a lot of people, a lot of people disappointed because of this news coming out. And I'll be honest, I'm one of them. For me personally, I wanted to see Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford next. That wasn't to be for whatever reason. They couldn't seem to make the deal, couldn't get it together. I'm not going to, come out and say that it didn't happen because of X or because of Z or because of Y. Because even with all of the different reports that were coming out, there were a lot of things that were conflicting with one another. And the truth is that as fans, all we know is what we hear. We're not involved in negotiations. It's easy to point fingers. If you're on one side of the fence versus the other in terms of who you support, a lot of times you're gonna run with what fits what you already think to be true. So it was one of them situations where they couldn't get it together in time before the end of the year. So now Crawford's going on doing his own thing. He's going to do something different. Don't know how that's going to turn out for him, but we'll see. My concern about the venture that Crawford is entering into is, it's an unknown commodity in terms of boxing, especially big boxing events. And when Terence Crawford is one of the bigger names in the sport, you have to consider his events to be one of the bigger boxing events. Not saying it's Canelo big, not saying it's Wilder Fury big, AJ, big or anything like that, but still a bigger boxing event. But one of the concerns I have about that is that when you have a new entity putting on an event, especially of that magnitude, you worry about how things are going to go. Is everything going to fall into place like it's supposed to? How is it structured? One of the things that comes to mind to me when I heard this, like right away, I thought about Teofimo Lopez and George Cambosos supposedly fighting on Twitter for all not Twitter, Triller. Adrian Broner got me talking about Twitter, fighting on Triller for all of this money, and then it basically never came. It never came to fruition. It ended up basically canceling the deal, and everything just kind of fell apart. So it's just one of them things where it didn't work out. Hey, salute, Hyphen. See you. So you're in bad traffic listening in. Don't feel sorry for any boxing fans or Errol. Yeah, I ain't. Yeah, I'm not. It's one of them things, man. Where for me personally, I was hopeful of the fight. I came on, made videos in support of the fight for years, talking, trying to, basically, keep myself up about it, in terms of being hopeful that the fight was going to happen. And you know what I'm saying? And I'm still hopeful, but I did get to a point where I realized I cared too much about the fight happening. And then that's when I started backing off. because I feel like as I consider myself to be an avid boxing fan, I can't put too much energy and stock into one fight, all the while ignoring all the other good fights going on around the same time frame that these guys are negotiating, or during the time frame that they're negotiating, and all I'm fixated on is whether or not this fight's gonna happen. So I had to pull back and just appreciate the fights that are happening. Appreciate the fighters that are getting in there mixing it up. Appreciate guys who like basically I'll take for instance, like I'll give an example. Look at Zerto Ramirez. Zerto Ramirez is a guy who is I don't know exactly what Zerto's record is now, but I think it's like 43-0 or something like that, somewhere along those lines. And here Zerto is, going out of his way to fight a guy that a lot of people think is gonna beat him. He's not sitting there trying to covet that zero. He's going after Bivol, who is arguably the best guy in the division, and he was the one pushing for that fight. So, and that's what I like to see in terms of behavior from fighters. So I like to see guys who want to go in there and mix it up, and they worried about protecting a zero. So for me, I definitely I'm disappointed that this fight ain't happening. But like I said, I got to a point I had to pull back. It's too much. It's too much good stuff going on in the sport. And yeah, there's a lot of things I complain and bellyache about, but there's a lot of good things that go on in boxing too. I like to see guys come up. You know what I'm saying? I like to say, hey, I saw that guy when he was fighting 3 rounds or 4 rounds, whatever the case may be. So I'm appreciate these youngsters that are fighting, man, and stop fixating on what's not happening in boxing. Did the same thing with AJ and Wilder were going back and forth. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to appreciate these guys that are actually on the way up. Now I don't know how they're going to act when they reach certain points in their career. They may have a totally different, demeanor. They may, operate totally different. But I want to appreciate where they are right now and appreciate their journey on the way up. And I want to appreciate the women. I want to appreciate what we're seeing in women's boxing. And hope that at some point the men will follow suit. Salute Trey X. What's going on with you, man? Glad you stopped by. Hey, Hyphy, same thing, man. We chopped it up, behind the scenes before, man, but I'm glad you did have an opportunity to show up. All right, Hyphy said, have you had any YTBC hangouts due to differences of opinion regarding this specific fight? I don't know what you mean by any hang-up. Like anybody who basically is that I have any issue with because we have a difference of opinion, or they have an issue with me. If that's what you mean, I'll say this: there's certain channels that I go to from time to time, and no matter what they're talking about, you know what I'm saying? Like I do get tired of the Spence Crawford conversation. Sometimes I dip out. But a lot of times, it's channels that I support. If they're dogging Crawford out the whole live stream and blaming him for this, that, and the other, and whatever the case may be, or talking about Spence is gonna run him over and all that, even if I disagree with everything they say, I still hang in there. Now, one thing I have noticed is some channels who used to read my comments on a regular basis used to drop me links, things of that nature. They got to a point where I guess because I didn't agree with some of the things they were saying, they got to a point where they started ignoring me in the chat sometimes. And that's cool. That's their prerogative. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I didn't stop coming to the channel as a result. Like I said, if I'm not coming around or not being interactive in the chat, more so than anything, it's just because I'm tired of that conversation. I'm just tired. I'm tired of the. I was tired of the back and forth and the blame game. Y'all seen a lot of my videos. Y'all know that I try to stay away from the whole it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault, this person's ducking this person, that and all that. I try to stay away from that because I feel like that's a horse that's been beat to death on YouTube when it comes to boxing talk, and I just don't want to be another guy of many talking about the same old things over and over every day. I think it takes away from the value that a lot of guys have to bring to the sport of boxing because they just follow in suit and just jumping into the same conversations, regurgitating the same talking points, and just going on and on talking ad nauseum about the same things. I don't, I feel like, not to sound vain or anything, but I feel like from an intellectual standpoint, I'm devaluing myself and watering myself down if I just do that every day. Trey said we all have to step our game up and become knowledgeable on the entire fight game, not just the top guys. I absolutely agree, man. When they first announced that Crawford is fighting David Avanesyan, and I started hearing a lot of people couldn't even pronounce his name. A lot of guys called him a bum. He's a nobody, this, that, and the other. When this guy has been like mentioned with a lot of the top guys, upper level guys in the division as a potential opponent, because of his rankings with the sanctioning bodies, and people saying they don't even know who he is, and I don't know if that's a byproduct of Errol Spence Jr. saying he didn't know who he was or what, but that was eye opening to me. I'm like, man, this guy, been around for a long time. That'd be like people at middleweight, looking at middleweight fights and saying they never heard of David Lemieux. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because Avanesyan's been in a couple fights with some notable fighters. Lamont Peterson. He's fought Shane Mosley. Josh Kelly recently. I know Josh Kelly ain't big over here. He's big in the UK, but he's known in the US. People know who Josh Kelly is. So when I hear people say they never heard of him, he's a bum, or they can't even pronounce his name, they just go to show that legions of boxing fans primarily look at the top, and they don't look in anything below. And it ain't even about whether or not they're the best or they're the most skilled. It's like they only follow the most notable guys. And if you're attached to one of the notable guys, they know who you are. If you're not, they don't know who you are. This is a golden age for women's boxing, so I'm going to dedicate more time to them. Yeah, me as well, man. You brought that up to me several months back. That we ain't giving the women's boxing enough attention. And actually, this weekend or this past weekend, the whole reason I even started making videos was because I said I refuse to let the weekend go by or let the Shields versus Marshall fight happen without me taking time to appreciate these women and put shine a spotlight on them. I felt like it would be bizarre, what I'm saying, for a fight like that to happen. As much as I claim to be a boxing fan, and then I'm not even gonna speak on the fight, and I really didn't have the time. I mean, I've had a lot going on in my personal life, what I'm saying, that it takes away from me being able to do this. So, but even with that, I said, man, I got to find time to speak on this Shields versus Marshall fight before it happens. And I think I might have touched on the Baumgartner fight as well during the same video. But much respect to the women, on the women of boxing and the fights they're putting on, and much respect to those who are behind them making these events happen. Who's putting their support behind them and putting them on a big stage and letting them get the opportunity to shine, because they deserve it. Many people saying that because Avanesyan was stopped by a man Crawford already stopped. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that, but a lot of people don't even know that. They're acting. They don't even know that much, right? A lot of them just were told that today. And to me, I understand that. I mean, but it's not like he stopped him yesterday. He stopped him 6 years ago. Well, I mean, I've had long 7 fights ago, and the guy, what I'm saying, is on a 6-fight win streak. Nothing but KOs. But what I'm saying, at the same time, if it's just a stay busy fight, I don't have an issue with the fight. My issue ain't with who Crawford fighting. My issue is with who he's not fighting. What I'm saying? And the same thing with Errol. People saying Errol might end up fighting Stanionis, and there are people complaining about that. I don't have an issue with Stanionis as an opponent for Errol Spence. I think that's a necessary fight that needs to happen. But at the same time, my issue there is that the Crawford fight didn't happen. But I'm not here to blame, put blame on the guys and say the fight should have happened, but it's not happening because of this person or that person. What I'm saying? I've stated many times on my channel that, I feel like these guys weren't appreciated, with the value that they brought to the table. And I've always said that regardless of how people felt like the person should be split, and that was a conversation I never wanted to engage in, but I've always said that Terence Crawford is just as much a part of why they fight as big as Errol Spence Jr. But what the people who are putting the fight on needed to understand is that these fighters were the reason the fight was big. Nobody cares about y'all. Make the fight for the fans and get out of the way. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the problem. Boxing can't get out of its own way a lot of times. Modern King Boxing, salute. Say what's great. Hey, even with all the BS, life's great. I say that every day. You know what I'm saying? No matter what I'm going through, man, if I'm still on this side of the dirt, man, life's great. If Spence were independent of Al, would another promoter be able to deliver the fight? I think if you didn't have any, PBC or any kind of attachments tied to this fight, you would have a bidding war from all kind of entities trying to make this fight. But the reality is that, we see it all the time that PBC is not trying to send their top tier fighters anywhere for a fight. You know what I'm saying? And that's their right. They built the platform, they have network agreements, and you know what I'm saying. If I'm a network, and if I'm over a network and we're giving you X amount of dollars to put on X amount of shows, and then the fighter that we want to see fight on our network, you send them somewhere else to fight, I'd have an issue with it. So I'm definitely not going to complain about it. You know what I'm saying? That they're not, the Al's not letting these guys, go somewhere else to fight. Now don't get me wrong, I think he has so many fighters that he should be letting some of these guys go elsewhere and fight so they can get opportunities. There's not enough fight dates for the amount of fighters he has, and that's a problem. When you got all these top tier guys get one fight a year this year. And here Terence Crawford is trying to do, supposedly trying to do business with him, and he's about to not get a fight at all in the year's about to end. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm glad to see him get an opportunity to get a fight in, but and from what reports are, he's still trying to negotiate the Spence fight, but we don't know, Like I said, a lot of this stuff is hearsay. You just never know. Are you buying Crawford versus Avanesyan? I'm actually going to put forth effort to try to go to the fight. So if I can go to the fight, I'm not going to buy it because I'm not that dedicated, and I'm going to pay for a plane ticket, pay for a hotel, pay for a ticket into the fight, and pay for a pay-per-view that nobody at my house is going to watch. But I actually said tomorrow I was going to start looking into some accommodations and things like that. I used to work out of Omaha, so a lot of people say what they say about Omaha, so I never had this taste for Omaha. I liked it out there when I worked out there. In my opinion, Spence versus Stanionis is a much more respectable fight. I agree, 100%. I think it's I think the biggest difference is if you look at why they would be in the fight. I mean, Stanionis has done what he's supposed to do to get himself into title contention. He is recognized as a champion, even though I personally don't put a lot of weight into those regular belts because I just feel like it's oversaturation. But to me, the man has already stepped aside. He stepped aside one time to allow Spence to fight Ugas. He agreed to step aside again for Spence and Crawford to negotiate and make a fight. If they don't make the fight, I feel like it's only right for Stanionis to get his opportunity. And I said such in a video not very long ago. And just from a pedigree standpoint, and I think he's a good bit younger than Avanesyan as well, although Avanesyan and Bud are the same age. I definitely feel like it's a much more respectable fight. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I do understand that Bud had to fight a short. Basically, he's fighting a somebody that's willing to take a fight on short notice. And if they're paid, supposedly, and I don't like to get into the purses and stuff, but what's reported is that man's supposed to make, over $10 million. For them to pay him that $10 million, they can't bring in some opponent that they got to pay a whole bunch of money to. So David Avanesyan is probably a guy who's happy to get opportunity, just like Rob Soccer was when Danny Garcia fought him. And Rob Soccer brags all the time about how much money he made fighting Rob Soccer. Well, that's because Rob Soccer only made like $50,000 to $150,000 for that fight. So all of the, what I'm saying, all of the purse went to Danny. So that, what I'm saying. So that's the way I look at it. But like I said, I don't like to delve too much into the money, get into these guys' pockets. It's not my money. I'm not gonna get any of it. It's gonna cost me money to see the fight. So this is where I leave that. But yeah, I definitely like the fight. I like Stanionis versus Spence a whole lot better than I like Avanesyan. But Trey X, you and I talk all the time about these layoffs and his inactivity. I've said it on another platform today. I'll say it again that Avanesyan is a dangerous fight for Terence Crawford with the inactivity. Avanesyan's been an active fighter. This is a guy that Conor Benn went out of his way not to fight, turning down offers to fight. And Conor Benn's supposed to be a dangerous up-and-coming guy. This is a guy that Virgil Ortiz said he wasn't ready to fight when the paperwork came his way to fight. You know what I'm saying? So people can say what they want to say. This guy's a respected fighter in his division. Only been stopped once. It was by Tamim Machine several fights ago. And you know what I'm saying? But and he got his loss to Lamont Peterson. I think that was for the WBA regular. And then I think he lost to somebody on his way up, like 3 or 4 fights into his career. He's a solid opponent. He's nobody that I would say anybody should be fighting on pay-per-view. But this is some new app, and I guess that's the way they run the platform. It's going to be pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is just an exposure thing. I don't think they expect to make a ton of money on this fight. I think it's an opportunity to break into the market with a big name fighter, for a fight. I mean, that's the way I see it. Musically Zone Talk Boxing, MZ. What's good? Glad you stopped by, and everybody. You glad y'all stopped by and join me. Y'all please hit that like button for me if you can. Just like I said, if y'all want to share the content, cool. But I'm just glad y'all are interactive in the chat, man. Because I don't have to just sit up here and talk about my ideas. I get to bounce, basically respond to what y'all saying, and y'all bouncing ideas off me and invoking thought, making me have to think about what I'm gonna say. Because I'll be honest, man, I have a hard time hitting that live, but you know what I'm saying? I go on and get all set up to go live, and I'll be like, man, I don't feel like doing this, man. I don't know if anybody gonna show up. I don't want to just be spitballing the whole time and just filibustering and don't get an opportunity to really talk boxing. I'm just talking about things I can go make a video about. So I appreciate y'all for being here because all y'all had an opportunity to be somewhere else. There's quite a few people live right now. Hopefully my number's gonna go down for saying that. Hopefully y'all don't take off. But anyway, Hyphy says I rate Avanesyan on the same level as Blair Cobbs. It's possible, man. I haven't seen enough of. To be honest, I haven't seen enough of Blair Cobb. I only watched Blair Cobb fight twice. That was his fight that he just lost. He lost, and then his fight he just had over Hooker. I think from a skill standpoint, I think Cobb may have. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say that. Cobb's kind of rudimentary sometimes. But in Avanesyan, I haven't seen him fight. I haven't watched a David Avanesyan fight in a long time. Like I think the Lamont Peterson fight may have been the last time I actually watched him fight. I never saw the Mean Machine fight. I just, I heard that Mean Machine just tore through him, but it went 6 rounds on boxing. So I don't know. I don't know if he was winning the fight and got stopped, or he was getting dominated and got stopped. I don't know how it played out. I don't know if it was a close fight. I just know I've always respected Avanesyan, and I know that for years his name was one of the names that would come up, and guys would always find somebody else to fight. Trey X. Shout out MZ. Mark Nash, what up? Hey, what up, Mark Nash? Glad you stopped by, man. I don't know if you're still in the chat, but you're all glad you stopped by. Hyphy, signed the top rank or not, Crawford still faces the same challenges. It's not about him being on the wrong side of the street. It's about him not being on PBC. Yeah, that's always. I mean, and a lot of people will say that's a good business model, right? If you're gonna You know, if you wanna ride with us and you wanna get the same, be afforded the same amenities and the same benefits as everybody else, then you're gonna have to come on board. I kind of make it akin to like working for a company that has embedded contractors, but also has employees who work for the company. They don't get the same benefits. So it's like if you want the same benefits, you have to get on with the company, and I think that's kind of the approach that PBC has. But it's more to it because there's a lot more at stake. You know, it's kind of like how back in the day, Don King and Al Hammond, Don King and Bob Arum, they have a fighter fighting a guy, but they have a clause in there that if the guy beats their guy, that guy has to fight with them for a couple fights. I have my suspicions that something similar goes on with um, the zone and matchroom because a lot of these guys that we've seen AJ fight, they end up fighting on the zone for a few more fights, win or lose. So it's almost like we'll give you this opportunity, but you have to agree to fight over here for a few more fights. We gotta have some cards to fill out this app. So but to me, I look at it like if Bud signed with PBC, that never was a guarantee that he's gonna get the fight. I've said that for years. We had Errol Spence Jr. doggone there begging for fights with certain fighters on the PBC, and nobody was making them fight. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with my guy um, Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr. was trying to get Leo for years. He begged for the Leo Santa Cruz fight so long he got put on the shelf. He got to a point that he got disrespectful. Or what some people perceived as disrespectful by putting on the shirt that said, I forgot, Al make the fight or Al give me Leo or something on his T-shirt, and then he got shelled for about a year after that. So I don't think that was a coincidence. All right, so I'm sorry, y'all. I'm a little tired, but I want to do this. Stein and Becker in the ring if anyone cares. I would try to watch it on pull up another screen and watch it, man. But I want to give a live stream my attention. I don't do this very much. I want to try to be decent at it when I do it. And if I'm watching that fight, I know I wouldn't be. I'm not the greatest at splitting my attention at the same time. I'll get fixated on one more than the other, and it'll probably be the fight. All right, Martin Nash said for $39.99 I'll buy it. I paid $80 to see Wilder versus the ladies. That's a great point. Because a lot of guys pay pay-per-views for the name of one fighter. They're not necessarily paying for it because they think the fight's worth it. And I mean, and that's the thing. I guess to double back on Trey X's question when he asked me would I pay the money to watch that fight. Um, if I don't go to the fight, I think I will. If I don't go to the fight, I'll pay $40 to support the event. And it's not just about Crawford. It's about there's another opportunity for a company to break into boxing, and I think that's an opportunity for me as a fan to for one time say, okay, I want to see because I've been saying I want to see Crawford or Spence or Crawford and Spence in the ring again in 2022, even if they didn't fight each other. I hated the fact that the negotiation lingered on so much to the point that I felt like, we weren't gonna get the opportunity to see either guy in the get a chance to see either guy in 2022. Now that said, my goal was, or my hopes as a fan was that they were going to be fighting each other in 2022. But since they didn't, or they couldn't make it happen, I still want to see both guys in the ring. There's a lot of fights that, what I'm saying, that I paid for that I felt like weren't pay-per-view worthy fights. And because I'm on the topic, what I'm saying, I'll say Spence versus Ugas. I didn't think there was a pay-per-view worthy fight because Spence has been fighting on pay-per-views and because they had 3 belts on the line. I just didn't see it as a pay-per-view worthy fight. And because Pacquiao had just fought Ugas, I don't, it was just one of them things where it was like, well, this is the fight we get. I'm supporting this fight because I want it to do well because I want the Spence Crawford fight next. That was kind of my mentality when I bought the fight. but I didn't see it as a pay-per-view worthy fight. A lot of these fights I bought, I don't see it as pay-per-view worthy fight. But there's a lot of fights I've stopped buying because I got to the point it's like boxing doesn't appreciate it enough to give us the fights we want. So I'm not gonna continue to do it. But I'd say $39.99, $45. I could do that. A penny over that, they wouldn't get my coin for Crawford versus Avanesyan. But like I said, for me, it's more about trying to support this upstart and see, because I think more competition in boxing is good in terms of who can put on events, different avenues, outlets for these fighters to go showcase their skills, get paydays, fans to be entertained. Paid for Ruiz versus Ortiz. Salute to you, Mark Nash. I did. I bought Thurman Barrios. Salute again. I didn't buy that one. I didn't. I not only did I not buy it, I don't even think I watched Thurman versus Barrios. I may have watched. Lenore asked for the link. Not at the moment, Lenore. I might drop links in a little bit. Salute, Lenore. MZ said he at work cooking. Hey, salute, man. Get that paper. Gotta get that paper, dog. Get them ducats. All right. Mark, hope you're not defending Buzz BS. Man, Lenore, you was just on another panel with me saying you understood. Never mind. Leave you alone. I'm protesting all BS pay-per-views. U.S. boxing fans need to grow a backbone sooner or later. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. I definitely done protested my share this year. Because I think this year was way oversaturation, especially at $79.99 a clip and all that. Because I never get the HD pay-per-view. If I get pay-per-view, I just get standard definition. I don't even I barely can even you know what I'm saying? I barely can tell the difference anyway. You know what I'm saying? I just enjoy the event. I'm not trying to go out of my way and pay another thinking like $10 more to see it in HD. For what? I still can see the action. Okay, MG's Trey X going back and forth. Lamar, I came in to support my guy. Did come here to go, my dog. Yeah, I'm I'll put this up here in case anybody wants to be entertained by this back and forth between those two. I ain't gonna read the comments, but I don't really like, these are their opinions of each other. I don't want to act like I'm feeling one way or another toward either person about what they're grown men. They can say what they want to say to each other. So hey, it is what it is. G Falky, what's up, man? Hey, thank you for stopping by, man. Salute to you. I hear Blue Blood got Crawford a deal to fight. Yeah, I've heard something like that, man. I don't know. You know, I heard him say something like that. I didn't hear him say I got the deal, but I heard him say he's affiliated in some way, shape, form, or fashion with this outfit. He actually used the term business partners, but I have no knowledge of whether or not that's an actual true statement. But I'm not going to say he's not telling the truth because I have no reason to. But yeah, that's what's out there. Mark Nash talking to G Funky. All right, that's Lenore and Mark going back and forth. Okay, so I don't. Anybody else type anything? I can't see anything beyond what they're talking about. But just to keep that off the screen, I'll get back to Trey X talking about BS pay-per-view. So for me, and a lot of y'all have heard me say this. I feel like pay-per-view is supposed to be for, especially on our traditional networks. But regardless, I think pay-per-view is supposed to be reserved for the upper echelon fights. It's supposed to be for top tier fights. Pay-per-view ain't supposed to be for top tier fighter fighting just a contender. I mean, I'm not of the belief, and I've said this plenty of times, that once a pay-per-view fighter, always a pay-per-view fighter. To me, I like when Wilder came off pay-per-view and fought Dominic Brazil. It wasn't a pay-per-view worthy fight. You know what I'm saying? But I also don't think Helenius is any more of a pay-per-view fight than Dominic Brazil was. I didn't have an issue with Wilder fighting Helenius. I had an issue with Wilder and Helenius being on pay-per-view. And I couldn't bring myself to part with whatever $79 or whatever to watch that fight on pay-per-view. Just because I support Wilder and I'm a fan of his and have been since I first discovered him long before he was a champion. Um, and I don't mean discuss. Don't take my words out of context and y'all go around saying D-Lo's on live stream saying he discovered Deontay Wilder. I'm saying as a fan when I found out about him as a fighter that I've been a fan of his ever since. So that's all I'm saying. But even with that being the case, I'm not gonna just blindly shell out $70, $80 for a fight just because I support a guy. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if even with this Crawford versus Avanesyan fight, if it was on ESPN Plus, if PBC was putting it on because it was a precursor to the Spence fight, I would consider it, but only if I knew the Spence fight was signed and guaranteed that we were gonna get that next. But aside from that, like I said, I'm more so supporting the fight as a pay-per-view because it's this upstart and because it's only $40. Um, I'm not a person that drinks or anything like that, so you know, it ain't like I'm looking at $40 like, man, I can go get this with that, or I can get me whatever. I don't even, and I don't want to sound crazy, but so to me, what I'm saying, $40 to watch the fight ain't bad. But like I said, I haven't been much of anywhere this year because of everything going on in the pandemic and things like that. You know what I'm saying? I kind of been real cautious about doing a whole lot of traveling. So, here it is toward the end of the year. If I get the opportunity to go to Omaha, I know it's very cold in Omaha this time of year. To go watch this fight, stay over there for, basically make it a 1-2 day event, turn back around and get on back over here. You know what I'm saying? I don't have an issue with that. And I hadn't been to a boxing event, what I'm saying, in a very long time. So, it'd be an opportunity for me to do a couple of things that I hadn't done in a while. I haven't been really into any sporting events, even high school football games, in the last couple of years. So, like I said, I may make every effort to get over there and attend the fight. All right. So, kind of lost my place in the chat. I'm sorry. Okay, there's G Funky, Mark Nash, and Lamar Steele. Where are you at? Yeah, they still going back and forth. Tay from Wilder's camp said it. Yeah. I actually saw Tay. I was listening to the replay of Blue Blood live stream earlier today. I don't know when he done the live stream. I think he done it. I heard him say it like 1 o'clock last night. I was listening to it while I was at work, and I did hear him mention Tay Jones in the chat, but I couldn't see it. I wasn't looking at the chat. I was working, so I was just listening. But and like I said, it could very well could be true. I don't know because I saw your All right. Business partners can simply mean Blue Blood receives a commission when viewers buy the pay-per-view through the referral link and not be as deep as people assume. LOL. Right. I didn't want to say that hype, but since you typed it and I read it, technically, like us YouTubers, we can get affiliate agreements with like Amazon and different other companies. So in a way, you're kind of a partner. You know what I'm saying? But and for an upstart who's trying to break into boxing, a guy like Blue Blood that has a huge channel, what I'm saying, a channel that does really good numbers, they may say, well, hey, we can link up with this guy. He can follow people to our app. Let's enter into some type of affiliate agreement with him or whatever. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. As far as I'm just throwing it out there. As far as I know, he could be 50% of the muscle in the company. I have no idea. But just like I said, just responding to Hype's comment. I could care less. I think that's great if what I'm saying, for him, if he is entrenched in the company that's, could potentially, make some noise in the sport. Excuse me. And Beko is getting with Stein. I picked Stein, so of course Beko gonna be getting to him. I didn't know Stein had fought in 14 months. Wow. That's what I get for making my picks at the last minute. I might should have looked at those odds. D-Lo, so you don't want to support Ugas, but you would support Crawford. Hey, well, that's crazy. I just explained why I said I would support the event. I didn't. Let me tell you something. I didn't buy Spence versus Ugas, or at least I think I didn't buy it. I don't think I bought it. I might have, but I don't think I bought it. I mean, to be honest with you, I know I bought the Danny fight. I was gonna buy the Pacquiao versus Spence fight. When Spence got pulled, I didn't buy Ugas versus Pacquiao. And if I remember serves, I remember looking at the Spence versus Ugas fight and saying, man, I just bought a Spence fight that really wasn't a pay-per-view worthy fight with Danny Garcia. I'm not gonna buy this fight. So, and that's what it was. Matter of fact, I know I didn't buy the fight. I wasn't even at home that night. I didn't buy that fight. The Spence versus Ugas fight. I wasn't even. I think I was out of town or something. But at the same time, I remember I lit because I don't even think I listened to Trey X and Marlo live. I think I went back and caught the live stream the next day. I don't even. I mean that's how busy I was that night. So basically, even if I had bought the fight, I would have bought it and not been able to watch it. But and I can't remember exactly what I had going on. But like I said, I'll be honest with you, I would have had to, for me to go out of my way to support the fight, because like I said, I wouldn't. It wasn't a good. I wasn't free that evening. So for me to go out of my way and support the fight just to support it, and wasn't even really feeling the fight. No, I wasn't doing it. Now, if you tell me Spence, if Spence versus Ugas had been $40, I'd have had a different I had a different attitude about it. But at the end of the day, if I was busy and I know I wasn't gonna be able to watch the fight, then no, I wasn't gonna pay to watch it, pay not to watch the fight, basically what I would have done. So no. But I mean, it's my money. You know what I'm saying? If I don't want to spend my money on somebody's fight, and then not even that, I didn't go out of my way and steal the fight, as they say. I just didn't watch it. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, I still haven't watched that fight in its entirety. I watched I think I've seen from round 3 on in that fight. I didn't see the first 2 rounds or something I can't remember. Either I missed 2 rounds in the fight, like maybe I missed round 3 or 4 or something, but I know I never watched that fight start to finish. And I just, I have so much going on. I just took time to go back and watch it because I really didn't care until I'm hoping okay, when they make the Crawford fight, then I'm gonna go back and really dissect these guys, their last few fights and stuff like that. But it wasn't happening. I mean, or it hasn't happened. Excuse me. I just hit on Western Kentucky over Alabama, Birmingham. I had to take Virginia over Georgia Tech last night. Hey, that was good, man. I don't bet on Georgia Tech games, but I'll be honest. If I did bet on Georgia Tech games, I would have bet against them last night. You know what I'm saying? Because I just didn't feel like coming off of that bye week, I think they had too much time to get ready. Plus, I knew about the quarterback. I knew the quarterback. It was a good chance the quarterback won't be able to go the whole game. So with that being said, if I was gonna bet on it, I would have bet against Georgia Tech because I knew that there was a great chance, you know what I'm saying, that the quarterback was gonna get pulled at some point due to injury. Because it was a lot of stuff being said in the forums about his injury and basically he wasn't even really fit to start. So you know what I'm saying? That was a good pick, man. Good for you to get that good win. All right. Okay. God dog, man. All right, man. So I mean, I'm not gonna address this. It ain't like I said, it ain't my business, but y'all brought it here. Do some of y'all have issue with each other, just wait to catch each other in traffic? and be like, man, I'm gonna say something to him. I don't care where I run into him at. It's like, man, if you have a difference of opinion with somebody, or you don't want to deal with them or whatever, you feel some type of way about them. Like to me, the best thing I do when I feel that way, I leave them alone. Man. I be in chats where cats who have, basically, what I'm saying, gone to other people's channel and tell them take my wrench and kick me out the chat and stuff like that. Be in the chat. I just don't say nothing to them. You know what I'm saying? And hope that they got sense not to bother me. But that's all I'm gonna say about it. Y'all do your thing. I ain't got an issue with it. It ain't really, but it's just I try to read all the comments, so it's kind of, but I don't want to read y'all bickering back and forth. Your favorite boxing, your favorite boxing business insider, Glacier. He talking about Rick Glacier broke the news that Wilder and Ladies did 77,000 buys. Your thoughts? Yeah, I know that's what Rick Glacier said, and I know you try to be sarcastic talking my favorite business boxing insider. Like I said, I don't have an issue with Rick Glacier, man. I just, like I said, my hang up with Rick Glacier was a couple years back, and I made videos talking about what my issue was, and I ain't even gonna get into it, but it was just crazy. It's just like a lot of what my issue with Rick, a lot of it had to do with Cuban fighters and some of the stuff he was saying. And you know what I'm saying? And I just, I came out and said what I had to say about it. And I made videos on it, and then I got to a point that I was like, man, I can't just take what I dislike about the dude and just discredit him and disregard everything he got to say. The guy has value. The guy brings value to the sport. He brings value to these different forums and platforms and things. So, you know what I'm saying? I see him on Twitter. He's very responsive. Even when people be talking noise to him, he'll respond back. So, to me, I just look at it like, man, it just ain't that. It ain't that serious for me to just hold one thing I don't like against the guy, and then just not just totally disregard it. But as for what he's saying about the buys, I mean, I don't have a source for pay per view buys, and his number is the only number I'm hearing. So hey, if he's saying he did 77, I'm thinking that he did somewhere in the ball, the 77 range. Like I said, I'm not counted amongst the 77,000. It ain't because I don't like Wilder. It ain't because I'm not trying to, what I'm saying? It ain't because I'm trying to hurt PBC or hurt Wilder or anything like that. But at the same time, it's one of them things where I just look at it like, to me, what I'm saying? It just wasn't a pay per view worthy fight. I thought it was a great fight for a guy coming off for two stoppage losses. Um, Semi-retired and basically decided he wants to give it another go. I felt like Helenius was a dangerous opponent, a formidable foe, but just not the kind of fight that I wanted to see on pay per view. Um, and to be honest, it's going to be quite a few more fights that get made that I just ain't going to have any interest in paying to see. That's just what it is. Class tells over time, and Becko's lack of a jab is hurt his chances. Okay. So basically, Trey, it sounds like you're saying that the inactivity, he's basically shaking off the ring rust or the deficit that the inactivity has put him in is starting to wear off. So now it's starting to be more of an even fight, and his class is starting to show him. I like that. I picked him by knockout, so unless he gets a knockout, I'm gonna lose some points in the champ Raw. But hey, I still would. I'll be glad to have picked the right fight. Martin Nash said, D-Lo, keep up the good work, bro. I appreciate it, Martin Nash. Much appreciated, man. Bro, exactly. D-Lo, like he said, D-Lo full boxing, bro. Exactly. I said early on, I don't wish to engage, and I fell into a trap anyway. Hey, man. Hey, I'm gonna say this, and Lennar, don't take this person. I'm not talking about you, and I'm not saying this directly at you, but most of us men in here have got into back and forth with our woman or female, and right away we say something like, man, I ain't gonna go back and forth with her. And then next thing you know, 30, 40, 50 text messages later, you realize you just spent the whole last hour going back and forth after the first thing that came out of your mouth was, I'm not gonna go back and forth. So it ain't hard to get sucked into a back and forth with somebody, you know what I'm saying? It happened to me more than I more than I care to admit. Even at my job via email, somebody try to say something slick in an email in a group, I say to myself, man, I ain't gonna say nothing about it. I'm just gonna ignore it, and I'll talk to them when I see them. Next thing I know, I done sent back an email flaming them, and with everybody tagged to everybody CC'd in the email, including the manager of the facility. You know what I'm saying? I just, I guess it's just one of them things where I feel like I gotta say what I gotta say. All right. Lenore said, LOL, YouTube traffic. Yeah, you catch them in traffic, but you got to pull up right then, I guess. Yeah, I remember that when I was young, we used to fight, man. You know what I'm saying? Or we like, man, you told somebody when you see me, you going to do this. And okay, don't you see me? You see me now, right? What you going to do? Yeah, I'm glad I grew up. Someone just got milliner in front of the store. What? Milliner in front of the store. Damn, people shaking their head. I don't know what milliner means. I don't know if somebody just got killed. I hope not. The blame is on both of them, Errol and Crawford. Yeah, hey, Dr. Boss, I hear you, man. We ain't even. I know you just came to the chat, man. I appreciate you coming in. And I know you don't been on my channel, a lot off and on, man. I don't even engage in that blame game. You know what I'm saying? That definitely ain't the topic of conversation. You know what I'm saying? I could care less about, you know what I'm saying, put blame on either guy, both guys. But at the same, but the one thing is that anytime you have an agreement fall apart, there's always enough blame to go around. So I'm not going to sit here and say either guys absolved any blame whatsoever. That definitely would be true of what my position is. Fury versus Wilder 4. I don't have an issue with it if Wilder puts himself in position. Fury actually said during the build up for his Chisora fight the other day that he would entertain the Wilder fight if it came to him. He said something like, "It looks like I'll be fighting Wilder again," or something. I could potentially be fighting Wilder again. And if that happens, man, hey, that happens. I support the fight. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't have any issue with them guys fighting again. Seem like they do good business together, and all of the fights have been good. Even the fight that was one-sided for Fury, it actually wasn't a bad fight because of the intrigue. Is Wilder still throwing punches. It just he didn't have his feet. Couldn't get his feet grounded, so he didn't have a lot on the shots. But you know what I'm saying. I'll be honest, man. Like when I saw that fight live, and I remember everybody on Marlowe's corner. Shout out to Marlowe and Trey X. I remember thinking like, man, they need to hurry and stop this fight. Man, this is getting bad. Wilder could blah 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 whatever. But I also went back and watched it. It took me a long time, but I went back and watched it earlier this year, and I was like, man, that didn't look as bad as I thought in real time. You know what I'm saying? And because I remember saying that Wilder was nowhere near getting ready to get his bearings back. It was only going to get worse. Fury was run downhill on him. But then when I watched it recently, I was like, I don't know, man. Wilder kind of seemed like he was getting himself back together, weathering the storm. But whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't have an objection to the stoppage. That's still my position. I feel like Mark Breather did what he thought was right as a trainer in that moment. But to answer your question, I'm good with Fury versus Wilder 4 happening if the fight makes sense at the time. I'm not saying I want to see Fury versus Wilder 4 more than I want to see either guy fight Usyk, or more than I want to see either guy fight Joshua. And maybe even more than I want to see either guy fight a guy like Joe Jordan. I mean, I like new fights and new blood. Who the F believes Rick Glacier? He hates anything PBC, and I know PBC ain't perfect, but that dude has a big bias against PBC. Yeah, well, he said today on a platform. He was on New Media Today, USA. I forget Coach Malachi. He was on Coach Malachi's channel today, and he actually said that he talked about why he has an issue with Al Heyman or whatever. But you can have an issue with somebody and tell the truth, or tell what you perceive to be the truth. He actually even said today. He actually said a little bit about his source that he gets the number from. You know what I'm saying? I never heard him say that before, but he actually came out and said, he didn't say who the source was, but he said what they do for a living and why they're privy to the numbers and why he trusts their numbers. And I've heard it stated that a lot of people didn't have any issue with Rick Glazer's numbers for years until his numbers didn't fit what they want to believe. So I can't say. All I can say is I have no way of knowing the numbers whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? So I can't speak on it because I don't dang, what I'm saying, have a way to combat that. Okay, yeah, man. That's I hate hearing that, MZ, man. God dog, man. Sorry you had to witness that. I totally disagree. Wilder Barrett was terrible in that fight, and he looked concussed. Yeah, I mean, and that's what I said. What I'm saying, in real time, Hypey, that to me, I didn't look like it. I felt like they need to stop the fight. It didn't look like Wilder was getting himself back. I never felt like Wilder was concussed. I felt like the issue with Wilder was tied to his vestibular system in that fight. I felt like that equilibrium shot threw his balance off, and he was never going to get it back. And that's what I said in real time. And I said that after the fight in my post-fight videos and things that I made afterwards. That what I'm saying, if your vestibular system is whack, what I'm saying, it don't matter what you do, you're not going to get it back. It's kind of like being in a fog. It takes away, you got to clear up. And it's not going to clear up while you still get hit. So, what I'm saying, in that regard, that was a position I took, and I was like, yeah, he needs to stop the fight. But like I said, what I'm saying, looking at it a second time, it didn't look as bad as it did to me the first time. The first time I was all emotional. Of course, the second time I already know the outcome. So naturally, I may be looking at it a little bit different, looking at it through rose-colored glasses, because I saw him bounce back from that and have a good third fight. So even though he lost again. So, that's kind of the way, what I'm saying, kind of that maybe that's the way, why I viewed it differently. But, that's cool. I mean, I can see why you agree, because I disagree, because like I said, I disagree with myself. Because initially, I felt the fight should have been over with before they stopped it. You know what I'm saying? LOL, imagine if a fighter trains to hit equilibrium shots. I mean, I'm sure some do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at some of these guys, you have guys who consistently knock guys down with the same shot. You got a lot of guys who throw a lot of punches behind the ear consistently. Sometimes they get called for rabbit punching, sometimes they don't. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think these fighters train to, what I'm saying, land all type of shots on the regular. I think some of these guys train to land headbutts in fights. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and more of them than we realize. This is the way it is. I think Fury kind of does that. I'm sure he does. I mean, if something works for you, even if it happened by accident, if it wasn't what you intended, but it worked, why not train to perfect it? Why not train to get better at it, so that you're not going out here doing it by mistake? You're going out here practicing. You put it in practice so you can get good at it. Nobody's calling it illegal. Why would you not do it? So, what I'm saying? I mean, there could be some truth to that. You know what I'm saying? That Fury actually does go out there and, what I'm saying, that he actually goes into a training camp and works on certain type of shots. I mean, every other fighter does. If you got something that's working for you, you continue to work at it until it becomes second nature. So, what I'm saying, you got a guy that turns his head when you throw punches sometimes, and it makes it easier for you to land that type of shot. Why wouldn't you work at it? You know what I'm saying? And I'll be honest, that's the one thing that concerns me about Wilder fighting Andy Ruiz. Is Andy Ruiz, even though Wilder's taller, Andy Ruiz was landing those same type of shots on Luis Ortiz. Of course, Ortiz fights out of the southpaw stance. Ortiz is about 6'4", Wilder 6'7", so it should be harder for Andy Ruiz to land those shots. But at the same time, that's kind of the shot Andy landed on Joshua as well, who stands at 6'6". 200 and such pound with a such and such arm reach, blah, 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 blah. All right, let me stop this. So, anyway, my point is that, what I'm saying, with Wilder versus Ruiz, which is the fight that a lot of people talk about could be next, what I'm saying, that we definitely, what I'm saying, could have an element of Andy landing one of those equilibrium shots on Wilder and changing the dynamic of the fight. You know what I'm saying? Alter the dynamic of the fight, even if only for a brief moment. Salute, Eric. Salute, bro. will you stop saying you know what I'm saying, shaking my head? No, man. Hey, man, I'm country as a bowl of grits, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I talk. I'm not gonna come on here and try to talk like somebody else. You know, so there's a lot of guys get on live streams, and there's a lot of guys that are live right now. If you don't like, me talking the way I talk, then you can go over there and listen to one of their channels, listen to their live streams, and you know what I'm saying? You can go over there and listen to them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, that's hey, like I said, man, I'm from where I'm from, and I talk how I talk, and that's just what it is. You know what I mean? No, actually, he doesn't sound like a grown man if you can't say a sentence without saying the same sentence every time you speak. Okay. Like I said, dude, there's other people on here talking that don't talk like I talk. You can go listen to them. I mean, I'm comfortable, man. Where I'm at is almost midnight. I'm in the comfort of my office. I'm on a live stream talking boxing with people who appreciate the sport of boxing, people who appreciate the fact that I'm live, who want to come in here and dialogue with me. And you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna talk the way I talk. And those who don't want to hear me talk, they know the same way they found their way in here, they can find their way out of here. I mean, it is what it is. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? All right. So Eric R said, "Oh, Trey salute Eric R." JT said, "He just messing with you. I'm just messing with you, player. I ain't no player, dude. I'm far from a player as you can get. And I know you meant that in a figurative sense, but I'm just calling where it is. I'm a straight square. Why are you explaining yourself to a mark? I'm just talking. How old am I? Yeah, I'm pretty old, man. I'm up there. I didn't hurt your feelings. Dinner. It sound like it. Nah, man or woman, wherever you are, JT, you have to do a whole lot to hurt my feelings, man. I've been through too much. I don't live through too much to be getting my feelings hurt. Nah. But hey, answer Trey X's question why I gave. Hey, he gave me some energy to come in here and put them silly comments in the comment section. Evidently, he wanted some shine. I gave it to him. I'm an equal opportunity YouTuber, so you know what I'm saying. If he want to come on here and that's his way of get some shine, he can. You know what I'm saying. And I'm gonna give it to him. At some point, most people like that. At some point, they get to they pass the point of being able to stick around in the live stream. So the more I entertain the nonsense he's saying, at some point he's gonna say something disrespectful, and he don't have to find the door. I show him the door, but it don't really matter. It don't bother me. I'm just talking, man. Like I said, I couldn't get on here and just dialogue without the people in the comment section. So if, you know what I'm saying, he dropping the comments, he dropping. I'm addressing just like I'm addressing everybody else. He get too disrespectful, I get him up out of here. It is what it is. We country. Yeah, that's right. Like I said, my country's a bowl of grits. I know that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna be that way. Hey, if I'm still talking the way I talk now at this age, I don't think it's gonna change. And I done been places and I still talk the same way when I was other places. Some people move away and they start to pick up on the dialogue where they at. You know what I'm saying? More so than where they're from. But for the most part, what's it gonna stay with you? You don't have to be from a certain region to understand lingo and accents. If you really grew up around black culture, you recognize black culture. Man, say that. Say that. For real. We all talk like that. You know what I'm saying? See, that's why I read the guy comments. You know what I mean? So we can be lighthearted and laugh and have a good time or whatever. I do know. I'll say this. I do try, like when I'm doing videos, I try not to say that because I know I say it a lot. But at the same time, it kind of takes away from the flow of what I'm trying to do because I'm trying to go against what I subconsciously want to do. So I'm trying to tell myself, don't say this, don't say that, don't say don't say you know what I'm saying. Just go. But hey, y'all know I ain't the type of person gonna sit there and chop up and edit no video. I make a video and it come out raggedy. It's just raggedy. It's out there. You know what I mean? As long as I conveyed the message that I was trying to convey, I'm gonna leave it out there. As long as I ain't put out no misinformation, I ain't going back. Redropping the video because I said something that sounded crazy. Exactly, D-Lo. I'm saying at your age, you are the man you are, and accept where you are in life. Yep, that's it. And I'm unapologetic about it. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what it is. All right, y'all. Anybody want to come on here and chop it up? I'll probably be on about another, I don't know, at least 30 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop that link. But because I don't want any nonsense, and I don't want to have to worry about taking the video down. If you ain't somebody that I've been dialoguing with, you know what I'm saying, over time, and I know, you know what I'm saying, that I dialogue with on YouTube for a while, I'm not gonna just let anybody get on because I don't want to have to take this live stream down. I'm pretty close to getting monetized, and I don't want to miss. I don't want to be deleting content at this point. But you know what I'm saying, just to kind of further the conversation and keep the live stream going. Anybody want to hop on, just let me know. And Lenore, don't get over here talking about Mark now. All right, so I'm gonna keep going while I'm waiting on that. I got the link in the chat. Anybody want to get on? One of the things that I actually got in the title, and we haven't gone anywhere on it. I see Lenore. I'm about to bring you in just a second. Um, One of the things that you know I want to talk about that you know really had got to is, you know, I mean, we touched on Spence, we touched on Crawford, what they could be doing, because we don't even know about with Crawford. We don't know if this fight really gonna happen. You know, hey, that's just like Teofimo Lopez, and I said earlier, Teofimo Lopez and Camposos were supposed to be fighting on Triller. That never happened. So, with this being an upstart, we don't know what's going to happen. But what I will say is that I kind of wonder what fights are going to be made below them in the welterweight division. You know, what fights, you know, do y'all want to see when it comes to these guys that are below Spence and Crawford? Let's just say, for conversation, for the sake of conversation, that Crawford's fighting Avanesyan, and Spence, if Spence fights, he fights Stanionis next. So if we knew those to be facts, just say if it was factual information, what are some of the other fights that y'all would like to see made at 147 pounds, like next for these guys? Because a lot of guys been standing around stagnant at 147 pounds. So that's the question I pose to the chat.
What's up, D-Lo? Not much, man. Hey, don't you find it amazing how you have your house, your domain, your channel, but then people try to tell you how to speak on it?
It's funny. It's funny.
Or they try to tell you, you know, because I get that all the time, you know, so that kind of triggered me. You got people who try to tell me how to speak. This is man how I feel. If you don't like my commentary, you just move on, move past my comment, go on to the next.
That's right.
You know, so nobody said you obligated to respond. But you know, I was just but that's a good question that you pose. Um, see, I want to say Thurman should get in the mix, and he should because he's gonna be sitting on the shelf again. He's like the most inactive guy at welterweight. You know, so he definitely needs to get another fight in.
Yeah,
So
when did Thurman fall? February?
February, you know, what I'm saying he's coming up on a year himself. So he got to get a little fight in. You know, and if it's not against Spence, the way you put it, then you know I don't want to see him fight Boots or T because I still feel like Crawford or Spence needs to be the one to finish him. I mean, especially Spence, but they need to get that name on their legacy. You know what I'm saying? So somebody between the two at least, you know. So I don't want to see them. I don't want to see Thurman fight Boots or Virgil, but it makes sense if he was to, So I don't know. Maybe you can see like a Thurman versus like a I don't know, because that only his only options really
Butayev is a good fight.
Butai, yeah, Butayev. But damn, Thurman. My problem with Thurman though is he's not the most durable guy. Like into his body, you know, is like so he can take a shot for the most. He takes shots for sure, but to his body, he's just weak. So if he's facing a big, strong man like that, you know, he's gonna have to weather the storm. I
Yeah,
feel like 'cause he puts that pressure on people.
Thurman's not the kind of guy I would trust in a tune-up fight. If Thurman just say Thurman and Spence were the fight that's going to be that they're trying to make for February, and Thurman said, "Well, I don't want to go the rest of 2022 without a fight, so I want to fight somebody, in 2022." There's not many guys that I would just say, that are active and on the radar when you look at the top five, top six, and these sanctioning bodies that I would feel comfortable letting Thurman go out there and fight, or watching saying Thurman should fight, and while he's trying to make this big fight. And it ain't so much about him getting beat; it's because Thurman's in a tough fight. Does he go back on the inactive list? Does he go back on the disability list?
hmm Yeah, that's not. Yeah, so I think that if you just from your scenario, if that's what it is, and then one could say, well, let's get Boots and Virgil to fight. But I think and like I said, if I gotta keep it consistent. If I'm okay with Spence getting the belts and trying to fight Crawford undisputed towards the end, I also have to be okay with saying I would like to see Boots and Virgil. It's okay if somebody would say, "Hey, I want to see Boots and Virgil be champions first before they fight."
I
You
don't
know,
have I wanted those guys to fight a while back. I think they missed the moment to fight without either one of them being a champion at this point. And the reason I say that, for the same reason that I say, like, Boots and Stanionis aren't gonna fight each other, because their management sees that each guy is like one bout away from a championship fight. Why would you have them cancel each other out? Why would Eagles Clemus say, "Hey, go ahead and fight Virgil, or go ahead and fight Boots," when you got the Spence fight in your back pocket, or at least
hmm
a fight versus the champion who will be unified when you fight him. So the same thing with, when you look at Boots and Virgil. You got Showtime, who basically, in essence, is kind of like Boots' promoter. So when you look at it from that standpoint, the Showtime want to put him in with Virgil when they could get him in a title fight in his next fight, or the fight after that. And then the same thing with Golden Boy. We know how Golden Boy is with their guys. You know what I'm saying? We see how they handling Jaime McGill. We see Virgil already back away from certain fights because they're saying he's not ready. Avanesyan
yeah,
being one of them. He backed away from the Avanesyan fight. He backed away from the Crawford fight more than one time. He backed out of the mandatory spot. That's how Porter got back in it. So you just never know. So like I said, for me as a fan, it's a fight I would love to see.
you know
Right
what?
now.
What would have worked out? You could have had if they were see, but they didn't think like this. I'm sure they would have thought this fight would have came through. If Thurman had fought Stacionis in the middle of the year, he could have came back towards the end, and Spence would have been free. But of course, you know, they had no way to predict that. That this was going to happen. That Crawford was going
Yeah,
to fight.
yeah.
David.
I can't remember when Stanionis fought Butayev, but see, there again, like, I think that's a good fight for both guys. I think that's a winnable fight for both guys.
Oh no, I
But
think they fought. I think he fought in April, right? I think he fought Butayev
right,
in
so
April.
I mean, we still had time. So just say if they fought in October. So, but the problem there also, you got to think about, is Stanionis' management gonna say, "Go fight Keith Thurman, very dangerous fight against a former champion, and risk losing your shot at a fight versus the Spence Crawford one."
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I was just saying that, like, there's no way that we could have predicted that, but there would have been no time for Spence to fight, Thurman in December and or January if he got past, what's his face, and then we could have been talking about Crawford, Spence, the first, like I said, first quarter, first season, spring season of 2023. There was just enough time in between fights we could have got that, but of course, nobody would have thought, because if Al Haymon was smart, he probably should have positioned Thurman to fight uh, if he could. Like you said, that's if he could, if they would allow it. Say, hey, while Spence and Crawford try to get things sorted out, how about you fight Keith Thurman? I think St. Jones probably would have took it. Don't you think?
A Thurman fight.
Yeah. I mean, in the meantime,
I don't know, man. It just depends on what he values. Does he value a title opportunity more than he values the name Keith Thurman and what they can do for him should he get a win? Do he value the opportunity over of fighting Thurman over the potential not getting the opportunity? Because regardless of what's in place, there's always a chance something could fall through. Because you got to think about Stanley only still has to fight somebody. So it's like, okay, you can fight this guy for X amount of dollars. You can fight Thurman for substantially more. Thurman's more dangerous, but this other guy could also mess around and beat you. Now you still ain't gonna get the Spence versus Crawford winner. That's
let's
that's
say,
saying that's saying like
yeah.
if Spence Crawford was having this 2 fight deal, because what was reported, if we're going by like we talked about earlier, if you're going by what's reported, if you want to believe what's out there, the Spence Crawford fight had a bilateral rematch clause, meaning that both guys had opportunity should they lose to invoke the rematch. To say they want the rematch, and the winner was now according to this, the winner was gonna get the lion's share of the money. But that's neither
Mhm.
here nor there. My point is that it sounds like to me that Crawford and Spence were gonna be in fight for 2 fights. So that means if standing only, the only way for him to guarantee that he didn't lose his standing would be to not fight anybody. So to me, I'm with you. It makes fight Thurman. That's a big fight that does a lot for your career.
Mhm.
Although it's dangerous, but it's boxing, so every fight has a element of danger to it. Because
Yeah.
a lot of guys have gone out there and lost the guys they thought were a tune-up. That's why I don't really, I'm not looking at this Bud versus Avanesyan fight as Bud's going to just go out there and do his thing. The guy's
People
been on
listen.
the guy's been out of the ring he'll been out of the ring over a year at that point. Matter of fact,
What I'm
it's on.
saying, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was saying, yeah, like you said, like if well, what do I do at Staciones? Like me, I would favor Thurman over Staciones. I think you get him now, especially that he got his fight in this year. I favor him,
I don't
but
know.
I would, but I mean, I see what you're saying. It's a risky fight, like there's no guarantee. Like that's going to be a close fight from beginning to end. You know, at this stage of Thurman's career, I still would favor him. But yeah, if I'm Staciones too, you got to kind of weigh it out. Is this guy who could potentially beat me? Would I take that risk? But I do get a payday. Like one thing we can say, we can agree on D-Lo is nothing's guaranteed in boxing.
No,
Nothing's guaranteed. So who knows? Who knows if you could will even get to Spence fight? You just take a nice payday. That might Thurman. Who knows? That might be the biggest fight of your career. Do you pass up the opportunity, or do you wait and play it safe so you get your title shot? Because I tell
exactly.
you this right now: if Spence was to become undisputed, he is not going to fight. Keep those belts and fights. It's mandatory. He's going to leave and go to 154.
Yeah,
So
if he's saying what's being reported that he's struggling with the weight, which I think I did see it on Twitter, and he said so. He didn't necessarily say he was struggling. He said he basically alluded to it that it's a struggle to stay at 147. So it almost seemed like to me that Spence was never going to fight these mandatories.
yeah,
This was his these 2 fights versus Bud was going to be his swan song in the division, win or lose.
yeah,
If they
yeah,
fought twice,
yeah.
if he won, it's almost like whoever won this fight, they gonna have to beat the other guy twice. You know what I'm saying? Or
Listen,
either
what I'm saying is
fight the other guy twice. But so I don't think
what
it was
what
in
I'm
his
saying
plans
is
to fight anybody else.
the last fight. for either other fighter in division would have been Earl Spence and Crawford. That's it. That's gonna be the last fight, and they would have moved up. They was not gonna fight Boots. I never thought they were gonna fight Ortiz or Stacionis. Nobody. That's it. They gotta move up. Crawford shit. People talk about Spence making weight. Well shit, I heard Crawford has trouble making weight. You see the way he looked in the Kell Brook fight? And again, he's a little bit older than these guys. So his metabolism might slow down a little bit more, quicker than other dudes because he's 2 or 3 years older. So I didn't think Crawford was gonna stay at 154. I thought, to be honest, if he beats Spence, it was a good chance you see Crawford retire. I mean, honestly, I would be surprised because what is there left to do for him? Honestly, he's a Hall of Famer, and he would have solidified his legacy with Oh, well, excuse me, and Jamel. Excuse me, he would have got Jamel too. So those would have been his last two fights. I really truly believe. If it was a rematch, his last three, but Spence and Jamel would be his last two because he's ready to get up out of here, man. Because at that
Yeah,
point, he has nothing else to prove.
yeah. I think he's the type of fighter that would even if he couldn't get the Jamel fight, would want to prove to himself that he could go up and fight a solid, basically get a win over a solid opponent at 154, and preferably a champion. But the problem is that all the belts are with one guy right now. So if he ain't fighting Jamel, he's not gonna get a title fight up there. If that were the case, just say he were to fight the Spence fight, whether he say he lost the first one, won the second one, and then they didn't have a third fight, both moved up to 54. He wouldn't have an opportunity at a title unless he fights Jamel undisputed. So I can see that being a deterrent for him, even going up there. But at the same time, I think he's the type of guy that would want to prove that he can go up there and compete in the division. At least for one fight and pick it up.
And I think that man, I think it's in PBC's best interest, Earl's best interest, for the Jamel to move up, and just vacate the belts because there's just too many. There's too many. He's holding too many belts, and none of these other PBC guys can get a belt when he's holding it.
Yeah,
Unless
they got.
Spencer Jamel is going to fight. That's possible. Spencer
Yeah,
said he's open to it.
yeah, they
So
gotta
other
have
than
they gotta have titles for these guys to go defend
yes,
on these
exactly. That's what
on
I'm
these
saying.
networks.
You can't have a fighter like Spence not either fight a big name or beltless. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
You,
right.
it's not really good for his brand. Him fighting Stacionis right now is not really going to be good for his brand. Now, if he fought Keith Thurman, yes, it's good for his legacy. Even though Keith Thurman is probably not at his peak, but still, still in good, still good. But the big thing about that is that it's a pay per view fight, and it's a big fight for the sport of boxing. So it makes sense on both ends. But you can't really have Spence fighting a Stacionis, and this doesn't make sense for his career. When you listen, and this is a perfect example. When Floyd fought these dudes, he fought. Well, Floyd was so big, so he's a little bit of an outlier, but still, when he fought these guys, he fought. They were either champions or had a name that he could sell with or both a lot of the times. Miguel Cotto and Ricky Hatton and Zab Judah and Shane Mosley. These
So look,
Victor Ortiz, they had belts and they had legacy. They had legacy, with belts, and they had the pay per view marketability. You can't really have somebody like a Spence if you're for BBC. You can't really. It's not in your best interest to have him fight Stacionis. No, your best interest right now is Thurman because he has legacy. It's a credible fight people could buy because Thurman has a shot, right? It's a high level fight. And number two, it just sells. So it be in PBC's best interest to try to make the Thurman fight for Spence. It just makes too much sense now.
yeah, I just think the belt the situation with the mandatory gets in the way of the Thurman fight.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
probably
think
gonna take precedent.
but I think if PBC wanted to make that fight and Spence agreed and said let's do it, I think they'll find a way to make it happen without any restriction.
Do you think that if both say Spencer, let's do it, you think that Spence could bypass Stacionis again
Well,
without
that's what
getting
I was
stripped?
saying. I think they'll find a way. They will find a way to do it. I mean, you gotta think about it. The sanctioning bodies, they get a percentage of a bigger pie. You know what I'm saying? If,
Hmm.
if, if you got Thurman versus Spence instead of Stanionis versus Spence,
You
so
know what you could have
sanctioning.
done? You know what you could have done with that? Man, you could have had said, you know what, Jamel, this is what you could have done if I BBC. You know what, Jamel, move up. And Spence could tell Jamel, you know what, move up, brother. You know, go to 160, vacate your. And I know you might say it was easy for you to say, but just hear this out. If PBC was smart, they said, you know what, Jamel, move up if you can, brother, move up, vacate your belts, and then you could have had him fight for a title at 160 somehow, and then you could have all four of those belts split up, and you could satisfy a whole bunch of people. You could satisfy Jerron, he could pick up a belt. Earl could pick up a belt. Stacey Owens could pick up a belt. You understand what I'm saying? And
Yeah, the problem at 160 is that the only belt that he would have an opportunity to get is the one the brother has, and he would have to vacate for him to get it. You know what I'm saying? Because the rest of those belts are over there with the zone.
yeah, you're right, you're right. But I was just saying it could be a win-win, and then this is all hypothetical. We know it's just not going to happen, but you could have had a I'm pretty sure Stacey Owens would have been happy with that to get his title shot. Because I think he's just one of those fighters. Because I think because he's Lithuanian, so he'd be the first Lithuanian boxing champion ever. I think that's the biggest thing for him. Not when he fighting Spence or Crawford. I think it's just him being champion. So I think that would have filled his his fight for his title shot. He would have took that, and you could have had Thurman and Spence squad, and then it's all wishful thinking at this point. But
Let me let
but
me
yeah,
let me, let me address this comment. So, Hyphy said, I disagree, D'Lo. Thurman is not a draw or a big name in boxing at all. 39,000 pay per views is last out, and I get all of that, but at the same time, I think Thurman versus Spence is a bigger fight than Thurman versus Stanley Owens. That's the only point I was trying to make. But don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for a guy who put himself in a position and has taken step aside a time or two to get bypassed for his opportunity. If he's pushing for his fight and that's the fight that needs to be made, then I'm all for it. I'm not. I for one, you're never gonna catch me advocating for Thurman to cut the line because I feel like a lot of situations with what Thurman is his own doing. I don't believe, and I know, they just my opinion. I don't believe all these reasons Thurman was saying he was out of the ring, other than that he just didn't want to fight at that particular time, and I think with certain people he didn't want to fight because I heard Thurman say at a time in which he went out with injury that he would take basically if he got a Pacquiao fight he was going to fight, but he wasn't fixing to come back for these other fights. He need to take his time off, and he got to do this and that. So I don't really advocate for the guy, but I think he's a good fighter. I think he's declined some over the years. I feel like you know I don't know how much of it is ring rust, and I don't know how much of it is just natural decline as you age and ring wear or whatever. But I definitely think that he got action against a lot of these contenders and these former champions and things. I think him and I think and I'll be honest. I've always thought that I don't as much now as I did before, but I used to think that Spence versus Thurman was a tougher fight for Spence than a lot of people than a lot of people thought. Because it's just everybody thinking, oh, Thurman can't take body shots. That's pretty much the whole premise of them thinking that he's gonna beat him. Now, don't get me wrong, I picked Spence to win, and I think that Thurman didn't want that fight. But at the same time, I thought Thurman versus Bud was a tough fight. A tougher
yeah,
fight than a lot of people let on. Just because I think
I
he comes very close to matching Bud in terms of pure athleticism. And he
yeah,
pushes
and I
hard.
think
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that I think that I don't really think that Thurman and Spence would be as competitive as Thurman and Bud would have been. If Thurman was in his prime, I just think that Earl Spence is a pretty bad style matchup for Thurman. I think that because of body shots, but not only that, I think that Thurman, Earl Spence's ability to cut off the ring because see, Keith Thurman's a front runner, and he'll get comfortable if you see his later half his fights, he'll just box to a victory because the other person's either putting too much pressure on him or hit him with a good shot, and Earl Spence does both of those things. So I think the pressure will be too much, and I do think Earl Spence could cut off the ring. I think his feet are good enough because he's one of the best in the sport of doing that. So I think that Earl Spence is a bad style matchup for Keith. And just getting into like a like a philosophical thing, like Errol Spence is a solid fighter. Keith Thurman is a solid fighter too, but he can fold. I think just mentally, when you look at just like just like the way of the water, so to speak. I think that Thurman is a guy who doesn't will break under pressure. His body will break under pressure. I think Spence is the mentality wise would be the right guy to do it. So I think that I don't think it would have been my opinion as competitive. But Thurman and Crawford, though, that is, yeah, I see what you're saying. I've always thought that would be a tough fight for Crawford as well. Um, of course, Spence would be a tough fight because that's like a 50, close to a 50-50 fight. But I think that Thurman stylistically would give Bud problems because, like you said, I think they kind of match each other in speed, and I think that they both punch off of angles. That's the one thing I'll say that Thurman can would have would Spence trouble is punching off of angles and that power. But other than that, but Thurman and Crawford though they both punch off of angles. They both have good footwork and they both have good speed. And I think that Thurman can might be out there, but they both think in there. And I think that Thurman might be able to out. You could see pockets of Thurman outboxing Bud. So I can agree with that. I'll say this last thing, you back to floor. And I always thought that I think Pacquiao was a bad stylistic matchup for Spence. Now I picked Spence to win by stoppage in pretty dominating fashion because Pacquiao's age. But had it been a younger Pacquiao, I think that his style would be bad for Earl. So I always
I
thought
think
that.
I think the older Pacquiao that fight Ugas would have had. I thought he would have had a better night against Spence than he did against Ugas. I felt
Fair.
like huh?
I said fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I mean just because the lefty versus lefty thing. And also, I felt like his speed, he still was kind of, still fast. I felt like he was trouble spin. But I felt like he would lose the fight. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. But I didn't think it was as one sided as people thought it was. And then of course when Ugas went out there and did what he did, then, by default, everybody just, oh well, imagine Earl Spence would have killed him and this, that, and that. So, But
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. When the lead up to that fight, I would say it's gonna be a close fight. I favor Earl to win. I say even by stoppage. I think late, but I favored it late. I said Pacquiao was a shot. But now after I saw the Ugas fight, I kind of questioned. I think it's fair to, even though you could say I'm quote unquote changing my tune, but still, I think it's fair to question the way that Ugas fought would have Earl Spence. I think it's fair just to question would he have done even a better job. I think that's fair. I think it's reasonable to assume that it's a big possibility that he would have done better. Not saying he wouldn't have not, but I think it's at least reasonable to say okay to question whether or not he would have done better or not.
right. And I'll say, for me, I had Arrow winning that fight by a majority decision. Is what I had the way I predicted the fight would go. Not to say that I really believe that it was gonna, that one of the judges, would necessarily have it for Pacquiao or having a draw, but I just felt like, going into that fight with everything that Spence was, and then it was one of them fights he wanted so bad. Sometimes when you want something so bad, it has an adverse effect on you. So I just felt like
Yeah.
I felt, and I definitely felt like it was going the distance. And the reason I say that, every time Pacquiao we've ever seen Pacquiao knocked out, over the years. And if we go back and look at the fight when he got knocked out a long time ago, Pacquiao was knocked out cold. Like he was like really knocked out, like one shot knockout, if I remember correctly on all those fights. So with that being said, I never saw Spence, dropping Pacquiao with one shot. It would have been kind of accumulation of punches type thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
Pacquiao knows how to survive. I can't see anybody stopping Pacquiao on accumulation of punches.
I thought he would have got to him late because I think that pressure at his age, because this is again it's Pacquiao's age. I think that pressure and the body shots at Pacquiao's age, like how Spencer's a pressure cooker and he
It's
keeps beating
hard
you
to
down.
get body shots in on a guy that's 5'5" when you're 5'10".
But true. But think about it like this too: when you do land shots, they count for more. Correct?
Good,
So
but you
so
got you're opening yourself up for counters too for a guy that's quick handed. I don't know that
look,
Errol would have went to the body against Pacquiao that much.
we'll never know. But all I'm
Yeah,
saying is, I do, in my opinion, I think that pressure and the body work would have got to Pacquiao at his age because his feet were not as good anymore. Remember,
hey,
a big
he
problem.
definitely he
Just to be
definitely would
fair,
have
a
had his
big
face. He
problem.
definitely would have had his face swole up.
Yeah, I'm saying a big problem. Remember, Pacquiao. A big problem for Pacquiao that fight night was his legs were gone. They were having. Remember, they were having problems with his legs. You couldn't quite get out in and out the way like he used to. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? They were massaging his legs. His legs started to lock up a little bit. That's what I'm saying. It was more of a thing where Pacquiao was age. I think Spence's youth would have came through into to a late stoppage because I think that his speed and his footwork were not there. And you're going against a big, young, strong guy who would have been able to keep up the pace and throw them body shots and who puts great pressure. So it almost would have been like a thing where you'll see it becoming too much. That's why I
yeah.
think he
Well,
would stop.
the one thing I think about that when you say that, the
Yeah.
one thing I didn't account for was Freddie Roach seeing enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think Pacquiao would put himself in a position where he would allow the ref to step in and stop the fight. But I could see Freddie Roach saying, "You ain't gonna win this fight. You just taking unnecessary punches." And here it
Hmm.
is, 11th round. Something like
Absolutely.
that. So yeah, I can see that scenario.
But I mean, I say all that to say this that I thought that a Pacquiao's a pretty bad style. That would have been a pretty good fight. Well, probably not during that time, but if Pacquiao was a little younger, that would have been a really really good fight because I think stylistically he brings to me. I think so. Basically, what I'm saying, the style that brings Spence problems that I think is like kind of what Porter was doing when you kind of punch off of an angle. And because the thing about Earl Spence, he has to plant his feet a lot. And so when you're quick, you have athleticism, and you're able to punch off of an angle and make it awkward. If you can twist and turn him, so almost kind of like, or you have like an awkward line, center line, like for example, like Tyson Fury. Let's say if you short Tyson Fury down to like an Earl Spence, you can kind of mess up his timing and start to feint him. If that makes sense, kind of like what Porter was doing, you can give him a lot of problems. And Pacquiao was the perfect opponent, at least in his younger days, who would have been able to do that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I think that that's kind of Earl Spence's Achilles' heels when he's facing like an awkward fighter who can get off the center line and and uh and either punch off of an angle or punch off an angle or make it awkward for him basically. So I think that is because he can never set like that. You know what I'm saying? When you do that, he'll never set. And you saw that with Porter. He could not really set like that. With Porter sometimes because Porter would just get off that line and make it awkward, and he'll punch off that line and sidestep him and stuff, and he would get to him. And he had more success than what he would have been. What he would have, he fought a different style. If he fought straight up and down like he did against Kell Brook. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think. And I think with Crawford, real quick, I'll give you back to the floor. I think that Crawford, I think Crawford kind of struggle. It kind of depends with Crawford because if he gets into an inside fight with somebody who's better than him, that's his Achilles heel. That's number one. And number two, I think that he can be outboxed sometimes from the outside. Like for example, if you get him to feint because he's a counter. Excuse me, if you feint him because he's a counter puncher, and if you get him to lead, kind of like what Cavaliossi was doing, countering him, he can have some problems. But the thing about him that makes him so good is that he'll adjust to that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that his number one thing really is kind of that, but also really just the inside fight games. I think that when you get on the inside of Crawford, he starts to hold. Not saying he can't fight on the inside, but and people say, well, Crawford can't fight on the inside. Well, not really, because if you see Crawford, what Crawford will do, he'll take a step back. So when a fighter comes in, he'll jump back. So when, for example, he didn't stand right there toe to toe with Sean Porter, and when he did, what did he do? He showed up. You know what I'm saying? Standing toe to toe means you don't back up, you put your foot down, or you come forward and you start throwing. That's what's being an inside fighter. But no, what did he do? He'll take a step back and he'll counter, and that's what makes Crawford so great. I'm not knocking him because of that. But if you able to get up in his grill, and sometimes when I saw who makes it an inside fight, not a mid range fight, because I think he does great on the mid range, or not an outside fight, but an inside fight. That's why I think he's lacking a bit, especially against a guy like Spence. Go ahead, there you go.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to debate how the Spence Crawford fight will play out. That's a little depressing. But
No, yeah, yeah, no. I wasn't debate. I wasn't trying to debate that. I was just saying, you see that?
no,
Did you
I get
see
what
my
you're saying. Yeah,
reasoning?
yeah. I can go 180 degrees the opposite direction, but I don't even want to get into that because, like I said, it's like, why do we have to talk about how it could have played out or how it could play out? I mean, I feel like we already, years after we should have already seen this fight a couple times. I really don't even want to get into all that, but yeah. But like I said, man, when it comes to the Thurman and Crawford fight, or even Thurman, I'll do Thurman first. I used to say, now this was, of course, this was when they were kicking around this fight. I said, man, I could see Thurman winning like 5 straight rounds against Spence and then falling apart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
possibly.
because of how he tries to, he has this mentality. I'm gonna go out here and win these 6, 7 rounds, and then I'm gonna try to just play keep away the rest of the fight.
Yeah, he
Well,
coasts. He just
yeah,
cruises like
and I
he
can see
coasts. You
him.
know?
I can see him going out there and using his athleticism to, go out there and maybe beat Spence outright 2 or 3 rounds and steal 2 rounds just off of what he doing toward the belt. And then I can see him coming out round 6 and all that falling apart for him, and it just steadily decline until the fight's over. By him getting stopped in like 10 or 11 rounds. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
I
what
see
I
what you're
feel.
saying. I can see him. So you kind of like saying you can kind of see him beating Spencer to the punch in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of.
I say that because there was a lot of guys. There was a couple times I ate crow behind picking against Thurman for reasons that I just knew that this guy does this and that. But then I go out there and watch when the fight happens and I watch it and I see Thurman do things that I should have known he could do, or I knew he could do, but I just didn't think he would be able to do it effective against that particular guy. And he goes out there and do it. I think Thurman is one of those guys that against a certain level of fighter or a certain type of fighter, he's gonna get, he's gonna get what he's trying to get. But can he get it consistently? And I think that's where it falls apart for him. And I think with Bud, it'll be too many counterpunch opportunities. I think Thurman would do well, but I think probably somewhere around 5 or 6 he'll get caught with something that what I'm saying gonna ruin the fight for him. You know what I'm saying? That he's gonna
I don't
carry
think.
that he carry with him until the fight's over
I
because
actually don't
the
think
way he
that.
opens up.
I was saying I don't actually really think that. See, because when you look, because Thurman's a thinker in there. So, he thinks. You know,
You're
he knows
talking
how to say.
about on the back half of a fight. Early
Yeah,
on, Thurman's aggressive. And that's what I was saying. Like that's why I said around about 5 or 6 when he's still trying to win rounds, when he's still trying to win the fight, not when he's in coast and survival mode. That's why I said Bud would catch him in those rounds in which Thurman has gotten comfortable and throw 1 or 2 punches too many like Amir Khan does and get caught.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with that because I actually don't think that because I know because Thurman has good eyes and he thinks in there. You know what I'm saying? So I think that he would. Yeah, I don't think he gets stopped in
Think
one
about
shot.
look at how the Pacquiao fight went, right?
Yeah,
Remember, early in that fight, Thurman was the aggressor. And then when he got caught, because it happened early, he would even if he hadn't got dropped early, Pacquiao would have never dropped him late because later on in fights, Thurman fights different on the second half of the fight. So
actually, I saw something different. He didn't fight aggressive in the beginning, and he picked it up once he got dropped because he lost. He was getting his ass. Well, he lost the first 5 rounds pretty much,
he
or
was coming
majority
in,
of the
but
first
that
five.
happened the knockdown happened, I think, in the first round. At the end of the first round, he was coming at
Yeah,
Pacquiao.
I was saying it was the opposite in this fight. Thurman knew he had to pick up the pace in the second half of that fight. So by round 6, he started to put it on Pacquiao, and Pacquiao started fading because of his age.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
Pacquiao, yeah, and I think both guys had a good bit of ring runs going into that fight.
yeah.
I
But
think
I
both
think
they
Thurman
kind of
used his size and he used his youth to put it on Pacquiao, and it worked. And honestly, people talk about that wasn't a close fight. Pacquiao beat his ass, dog. That was a very
no,
very close fight.
Pacquiao faded down the stretch, man.
He
Thurman,
faded in the
I,
stretch.
I had it 7-5, but the knockdown was an extra point. But even if you had it 6-6, the knockdown still, wins the fight for Pacquiao.
Yes, the
But
knockdown won it for me and by 1 point. But had he not had the knockdown, I think Thurman might have actually. would have favored Thurman because what? Because a knockdown's 2 points, right? So that means on my scorecard, Thurman would have won by 1 point, right?
yeah, if it's 6-6, instead of that fight being 114, it's 114, 113.
Yes. So I would have had Thurman winning that fight had he not got knocked down. And he didn't get knocked down again towards the end. He got hit with a good body shot and almost
Yeah.
kind of went down.
And it's a 2 point swing if the guy was actually winning the round. You know what I'm saying? So just say if Thurman was winning round one and then he got knocked down, he went from getting ready to have a 10-9 round to now he got an 8-10 round.
Yeah. So to me, in that fight, that was the definition of a fight. The knockdown really was a difference, in my opinion. The knockdown, really, that knockdown that Pacquiao got saved him, and he won that fight before getting that
Yeah.
knockdown. But
And
had it been a 15-round fight, like back in the day, Thurman would have won.
Yeah. I don't think Pacquiao will go into 15 rounds. But hey, Thurman, the way Thurman labors in later fights too, though, I don't ever want to see Thurman in no 15 round fight.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
Like,
we already talking about a guy that don't want to fight hard, but 6-7 rounds, he's gonna put him in a 15 round fight. But yeah, salute to all the block fans. Salute MZ. And I got Joseph Brown saying salute Joseph Brown. Um, yeah, we've been on for a while, man. I'm probably about to get ready to shut it down. It's about 12:30 a.m. over here. You know what I'm saying? Probably go a little bit longer. Anything else you want to cover before we get on over here?
Huh?
Anything else you want to cover before we shut it down?
Oh yeah, I was just saying that I don't see like because Thurman thinks in there. I don't really see Crawford catching Thurman with a big shot and getting him up out of there. I think that it could happen, but it will happen because it will have more of like an accumulation type of thing. Does that make sense? I think
Yeah,
Thurman's he's
and
too he's too
he can get
he's
caught
too
with a big.
sneaky. He's too sneaky to be caught like that. If that makes sense,
Yeah, and
he's
you
too
get
sneaky
caught
to
with a
be
you get caught with a big shot and it not necessarily stop you, but it stays with you for a while and it affects how you fight. And
exactly,
that's what we've seen
exactly.
with Thurman a lot. Danny Garcia
Yeah.
hit him on the arm and it changed the way he fought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. You put exactly took the words out of my mouth. I think that if he were, he might got hit by a big shot or two, and then it affected the way, and then Crawford took him out. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think it'll be something like Kell Brook where he'll switch
No,
and just
no, no,
take him out real
no.
quick like that. Like basically how Bud does that
I
sometimes.
think
We'll
I
just
think it would be more like how he stopped Mean Machine.
exactly
When he hurt him and Mean Machine never was able to really recover from getting
cover.
hurt, even though he was strong enough and in shape
Yeah,
enough to go more rounds. But he never really
exactly.
shook that punch off.
Exactly. It'd be more exactly like more of those stoppages rather than Kell Brook or just a Crawford's other type of stoppages.
Yeah.
It would be more like that. Okay. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. That's all I wanted to say, man. Thank you for letting me on.
And
Uh,
I appreciate you getting on chopping it up with me, man. Like I said, sometimes like I said, without the chat and without somebody coming in dropping comments and ideas of what to talk about, man, it makes it hard to get through a live stream and want to be redundant, saying the same stuff over and over and all, regardless of what that clown said. About me keep saying the same thing. It's always good to have somebody to dialogue with, whether it just be in the chat or whether somebody gets on the panel. So I appreciate it, man.
yes, sir. All right. You have a good one.
All right, man. You two catch on the next one, man. Catching that YouTube track.
All right. Bye.
All right, y'all. That was Lennar. We was talking about potential fights at 147 pounds. Now that look like we're not gonna get Spence and Crawford. We were just talking about other fights in the division, and we had some ideas of what we thought what I'm saying would be some good fights and things like that. But hey, I just want to say I appreciate everybody for coming through. It was a good bit of people came through. I tried my best to make sure I shouted out everybody who came through, acknowledged their comments and stuff, and let y'all know how much I appreciate y'all taking the time out of y'all's evening to come through and talk a little boxing with me. One person I saw, I can't remember whether I said I was getting ready to acknowledge him, and then MZ had put a comment up, this comment right here, that kind of diverted my attention. But I want to say what's up to B House. You know, he's been telling me he's gonna come through and check the channel out. I appreciate him coming through. Me and him chop it up on Facebook a lot. You know what I'm saying, and talk a little bit behind the scenes. Every once in a while about this boxing stuff. So I just want to, what I'm saying, acknowledge him if I didn't, because that's the only. Like I said, I remember getting ready to say something to him, and then I saw MZ comment, and I think I ended up skipping over it. But I just wanted to do that because I don't want anybody to think I intentionally, just ignored them when they took their time out to come through and, listen to what I got to say about the sport of boxing. But that's all I got on it, man. I just want to go ahead and close this one out. Once again, I want to say thank you to everybody who took time out and came through and talk and put some in the comment section. Thanks to Lenore for getting on the panel with me, chopping it up. And I'll catch y'all on another one, man. Feel free to share the content. If anybody listening to the playback, got anything they want to add to the conversation, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. I'll get back to you. As long as it ain't nothing crazy, I'll get in there and start just leaving crazy comments. I'm just going to, act like it ain't there. But that's all I got on, man. Catch y'all on the next piece.